The story begins with Yuka offering Shukun some coffee. He reflects on how well she knows his preferences, noticing that she's always been aware of the little things. He muses about how Karasuma Yuka, his best friend for 10 years, and even now, not much has changed between them. They sit together, playing games like they did when they were younger. He introduces himself as Kano Shuichi, the same nickname for the last decade. Shu is a bit surprised that Yuka still enjoys the same things, like fighting games, even after all these years. He expected her interests to have shifted over time. While they talk, Shu realizes that Yuka has always been different from other girls. He starts to feel like something between them might be changing, though he brushes off the thought. They continue playing, with Shu thinking about how much their friendship means to him, but also pondering if viewing her as more than just a friend would change everything. He notices that despite their closeness, they've remained best friends for so long, and that consistency is something he values. The scene shifts to Shu's school life, where a classmate approaches him about his future plans. Shu is polite but uninterested, making it clear he's not interested in engaging deeply with others. He reflects on how many people approach him for his family's influence, rather than for genuine friendship. He avoids building relationships to avoid unnecessary complications, choosing instead to remain isolated, except for his connection with Yuka, who is the only person he feels close to. As Shu thinks back to how he and Yuka became friends, he recalls their first meeting. Yuka approached him one day while he was alone, unafraid to make a bold introduction. Unlike others, she didn't seem interested in his family status, and instead wanted to be his friend for who he was. This genuine connection became the foundation of their lasting friendship, and Shu remembers how much joy she brought into his life. Now, he finds himself in a situation where his grandfather calls him and is pressuring him into an arranged marriage, as he is the successor to the family business. He isn't interested, but agrees to meet the girl out of obligation. A few days later, the meeting unfolds, and he unexpectedly feels flustered, something new for him. The girl's beauty takes him by surprise, making him question if he could be falling in love at first sight. He realizes this is an unusual feeling for him, leaving him confused about what's happening inside him. Shu tries to understand why he feels this way, considering that he's never been affected by someone's appearance before. The whole situation feels strange to him, as he's always been focused on keeping his distance from others, especially in matters of the heart. Now though, this encounter has made him question his usual approach to relationships and wonder if something deeper is happening within him. Shu looks at the girl in front of him, amazed, recognizing her immediately as Yuka. She smiles and admits that she didn't expect him to figure it out so quickly, feeling like her surprise plan didn't quite work. Shu, in shock, attempts to wrap his head around the situation, pondering whether it would be a tad impolite to straight up inquire why he mistook her for a boy. He stammers, wondering why she's here. Yuka casually explains she came for the marriage interview, leaving Shu's mind spinning as he tries to make sense of the situation. Their grandfather, watching them talk, asks if they've met before, which makes Yuka internally sigh. She knows he already planned this whole thing, even though he's pretending not to. After some time, the adults leave the two alone to talk. Shu awkwardly introduces himself, and Yuka laughs, saying she already knows. They exchange formalities, and she comments on how much he's grown, looking cooler than before. Shu thanks her, admitting he barely recognized her at first. For a moment he worries she'll think he's just being polite, but her easy smile reassures him. Yuka then flaunts her dress a bit, causing him to be embarrassed, and he apologizes. She reassures him, explaining how she used to pretend to be a boy when they were younger, which explains the confusion from back then. She talks about her rebellious phase and how she didn't like her name much at the time, but Shu was one of the few who understood her. As he reflects on the past, he notices how much more feminine she seems now, which makes him feel a bit confused. Suddenly, Yuka moves closer and suggests something, catching Shu off guard. She explains that both their families want them to marry, and this marriage meeting is part of that. For her, marrying someone she doesn't know feels like a gamble. Shu teases her, asking if she's taking marriage too lightly, but Yuka explains that overthinking would only make it harder. In reality, Shu considers that this could be his way out of the situation, as Yuka is the only person from his past who makes him feel relaxed. She notices his thoughtful expression and brings him back to the conversation, asking if he's finished thinking. Shu nods, and she shyly asks if he wants to marry her. Before she can finish her sentence, he stops her, standing up and saying that he should be the one to ask those words. He asks her to marry him, and she happily agrees. They walk out together, discussing their future plans, both looking forward to what's next. As Yuka sits in the car, she laughs to herself, realizing the proposal didn't go as planned, but it turned out even better. She blushes, replaying Shu's words in her head, especially when he said, "Please marry me." She feels a rush of excitement and relief, thinking she was on the verge of being rejected, but was overjoyed when he asked her instead. Her mother notices Yuka's smirk and teases her for holding back her excitement. Yuka gets embarrassed and pleads with her mother not to tell Shu about her feelings, as she doesn't want him to think she's desperate. Internally, Yuka reflects on how her romantic feelings for Shu have only grown stronger over time, though she still thinks he sees her as just a friend. She vows to keep looking cool in front of him, determined to hide how deeply she feels. Her mother remarks that Yuka even set things up perfectly for Shu to choose her, wondering how she raised such a needy daughter. Yuka and Shu are out on the terrace, realizing that their journey as a married couple is kicking off today. Yuka senses that everything up until now has been a casual stroll, but now things are getting serious. The engagement, family introductions, just to warm up. It's time for the real marriage adventure to begin. Shu casually mentions that it's time for something, and Yuka nervously admits she's a bit concerned. She then playfully asks him why he's addressing her so formally, suggesting he drop the honorifics. Shu nods in agreement, and she praises him for it. As they move inside, she asks what he was talking about earlier. He explains that the moving company is almost here, and since he's dropped the formalities, she should too. Yuka shyly agrees, noting how much she likes her new nickname, and teasing him for not calling her Yuchan when they were kids. Shu chuckles, remembering how this situation was set years ago. Then Yuka brings up the topic of the bedroom, asking if they should sleep in the same bed, like when they were kids. She suggests it could be fun to stay up late talking, but Shu is caught off guard. He thinks to himself that she's probably just messing with him. Sharing a bed is normal for married couples, but it still feels strange to him. Coming out of his thoughts, he suggests they start with separate bedrooms for now, leaving room for guests as well. Nervously, he adds that they can decide later if they want to sleep together. Yuka laughs at his awkwardness, while Shu wonders if he's going to be okay in this new situation. Yuka sweetly smiles, saying she's looking forward to it, making Shu think there's a mischievous glint behind that smile. She rarely uses her cheek muscles this much, and it's making her smile feel crooked. Shu suggests they check the rooms and make some arrangements before the moving company arrives. Yuka agrees, thinking to herself what might happen when Shu finally agrees to sleep in the same bed. She giggles at the thought, which startles Shu. When he asks if she said something, she quickly denies it. Shu then notices her face is a bit red and asks if she's feeling okay. Yuka laughs it off, saying she's just excited about the new house. As they sit together after unpacking and eating, Shu thanks her for the meal and brings up that they still need to buy furniture and home appliances. Yuka agrees, suggesting they go shopping tomorrow. They both sit there, quietly sipping tea, exchanging a few glances that carry a hint of awkwardness. Yuka feels a bit awkward sitting with Shu, thinking about how rare these pauses were in their conversations before. She's excited to be living together, but now that 10 years have passed, things aren't the same as they used to be. Breaking the silence, she asks Shu what he usually does on his days off. He tells her he mostly reads now, and she can't help but compare it to the past when he was always playing outside and getting dirty. Shu remembers how Yuka used to drag him all over the place for little adventures. They both reminisce about the fun they had, and Shu thanks her for showing him new experiences, admitting it was always more enjoyable with her around. Yuka blushes slightly but hides it, thanking him back for making her childhood more fun. They laugh about how reckless they were, biking too far from home and not telling anyone when they'd return. Their conversation flows easily as they recall old memories, like the time Shu ate an orange and Yuka confused it with a beautiful rock they had talked about before. Eventually they realize how late it's gotten and decide to wrap up the evening. Yuka offers to do the dishes while Shu prepares the bath. Shu reflects on how they've slipped back into a comfortable rhythm, though there's still one thing to decide. Yuka shyly asks if he wants to take a bath together, but he gets flustered and quickly declines, saying he'll go in first. She seems slightly disappointed but brushes it off, while Shu, filling the tub, can't help but think about how her teasing and her appearance is affecting him more than he expected. Meanwhile, Yuka is scrubbing away at the dishes, daydreaming about a shared bath with her partner. only to quickly wave off the thought. After her bath, Yuka, now in pajamas, calls out to Shu, who's on the couch. She tells him he's being too considerate, pointing out how he used to love taking long baths, but he got out quickly just to avoid making her wait. He admits that's how he's always been, but Yuka already knew that, having confirmed it with his family. Shu is surprised that she went so far as to talk to them, realizing once again how fast she moves. She also mentions how he refilled the bath with new water, something she says she didn't really mind back when they were kids. She gently tells him that while she appreciates his concern, she wants them to be more relaxed and easygoing, like when they were best friends. Excessive concern is something she wants to avoid. Shu agrees, realizing that what they each see as too much might differ, and they can always talk it out. They decide to leave the bath water as it is when they take turns from now on. As Yuka heads to her room, she suddenly turns and shyly asks for a goodnight kiss. Shu laughs it off while she thinks about how he didn't seem to lose his composure. After joking around, she heads inside her room and plops down on the floor, feeling a mix of emotions. Meanwhile, Shu is left thinking about how close he was to losing his cool. They're mostly back to how they used to be, but things like the kiss or taking a bath together still feel different now. Yuka, in her room, nervously reflects on how her heart raced during their conversation, and Shu reminds himself that Yuka agreed to this marriage expecting him to act like her best friend, and he can't betray that trust. The next day they head out to buy home appliances. Yuka excitedly points out a high-tech air cleaner shaped like a Daruma, explaining all of its features. Shu is a bit clueless about why it's so advanced, but Yuka is already sold on it. As they browse, Shu notices how people are looking at them, especially at Yuka, who seems used to the attention. He feels a little self-conscious, hoping people don't wonder why someone like her is with him. While she snaps him out of his thoughts by mentioning her plan to cook for him later, Shu agrees to go to the supermarket. Later at dinner, Shu is surprised by the number of dishes and asks if Yuka ordered them. She laughs and proudly says it's all homemade. He's impressed with how delicious everything is, and Yuka teases that it was worth 10 years of effort, though she quickly admits it's a joke. Shu, still shocked, assumes she must have taken cooking lessons to be this good, but she reveals that she asked his mother for the family recipes. He's taken aback, but Yuka simply smiles, offering him more food. As they eat, Shu can't help but think about how much she's improved and how everything tastes just the way he likes it. Yuka admits that she thought about him while cooking, so it naturally turned out that way. While Shu is amazed, Yuka thinks to herself that if food can attract him, that's a good start. After living together for a few days, they've settled into a routine, getting used to greeting each other. However, seeing Yuka in her pajamas still makes Shu's heart race. Morning comes, and as they greet each other, she heads to the kitchen, asking about breakfast while Shu sits at the table. He shifts the conversation to their school situation, reminding her that they need to keep their relationship a secret at school. Yuka, understanding the seriousness of their family backgrounds, agrees and prepares to leave for the staff room first for her introduction. Yuka then brings up Shu's difficulty with accepting people, showing concern for his school life. He admits that things have only gotten worse since their last conversation, making him a certified loner. Yuka, ever the optimist, reaches out, wanting to be friends. At school, Yuka is swarmed with questions from curious classmates. Shu watches, noticing the genuine interest some have in her, while others seem to have ulterior motives. As Yuka takes her seat in front of Shu, she introduces herself, and Shu is left pondering how to respond to her desire to be friends, recalling their earlier conversation about maintaining appearances at school. He nervously agrees, and the room buzzes with whispers about Shu opening up. Some wonder if he's weak to pretty girls, or if the Karasuma connection is too strong to ignore. By the end of the day, Yuka is pleased that things worked out. But Shu knows the real challenge lies ahead, navigating school as friends while keeping their relationship a secret. That night, they reflect on the day. Yuka laughs at how Shu is concerned over something as simple as being friends, reminding him it's just about small talk, moving classes together, and eating lunch. But deep down, Yuka has a more personal reason for wanting to be close to Shukuin at school. She can't bear to see him isolated for the rest of their high school days. As Shu prepares the bath, Yuka realizes she still hasn't talked to him about something important, but she decides to leave it for another time. A few days later, Shu notices Yuka's friends have become more comfortable, and he takes a different route to kill time. However, he begins to notice something off about one of his classmates, Takuchi Ida. Every day, Ida leaves his seat after confirming Yuka has gone, making Shu suspicious enough to follow him. When Shu confronts Ida, the atmosphere shifts. He brushes off Shu's concerns with a careless attitude, but Shu remains firm, sensing something deeper. The conversation escalates, and it becomes clear that Ida knows more than he lets on, even mentioning testing what kind of person Yuka's partner is. Shu, alarmed, pins Ida to the wall, demanding answers. Ida, in a carefree manner, reveals that before transferring, his older sister was Yuka's bodyguard, and now he's been selected to watch over her. His nonchalant attitude grates on Shu, who is starting to realize the complexities of their situation. Even as Ida rambles on about justice and protecting Yuka, Shu is left wondering what role he really plays in all of this. At night, Shu reflects on Aida's earlier words about him becoming a bodyguard, feeling a bit suffocated by Aida's intense sense of closeness. He casually mentions this to Yuka, who bursts out laughing, finding the whole situation with Ida amusing. Yuka admits that their weird interactions are just too funny, making it hard not to laugh. Shu, though, is honest and admits that he mistook the guy protecting Yuka for a stalker, and even fought with him for no reason. Yuka, ever understanding, thanks him for protecting her, saying that she should have communicated better with Ida, but completely forgot. Shu brushes it off, noting that in the end, they managed to share information, so it's all good, and he'll just treat Ida like a normal friend from now on, though he's still not entirely sure what normal means in this context. Yuka encourages him, saying it's better to have a friend like that around, assuring Shu that Ida is trustworthy despite his somewhat idiotic personality. He's loyal and has a strong sense of duty, even if he can seem flashy and casual on the surface. Shu finds it reassuring that the Karasuma family approves of Ida, but there's still a restless feeling in his chest that he can't shake. Yuka then reveals that Ida has been trained at a dojo since childhood, making him quite skilled and hardworking despite his laid-back appearance. Shu, in a more serious tone, points out that Yuka seems to know Ida quite well, which makes Yuka blush a little and teasingly ask if he's jealous. Shu, realizing his tone, admits that maybe he is a bit, which Yuka finds endearing, though she doesn't say it aloud. She reassures him by telling him that he's her #1 best friend. The topic turns to friendships, and Shu can't help but notice Yuka hitting it off with Takahashi-san. She nods in agreement, but adds that it's a tad tricky. In class, one of Yuka's friends asks if she has a boyfriend, and she responds with a yes. The boys in the class react with excitement, joking around about nominating themselves as potential boyfriends, though they're quickly shot down by others. Yuka's friend then invites her to check out a new cafe, but Yuka politely declines, explaining that her family is strict about her going straight home. Shu, observing this, thinks to himself how Yuka may seem sociable, but clearly keeps people at a distance, feeling emptier compared to how she is at home. Standing beside him, Ida chimes in, comparing Shu and Yuka's reserved personalities, which makes Shu warn him not to read people's thoughts so casually. As Ida continues to make observations aloud, Shu quickly silences him, thinking that they both come from families that value using others for their worth, but they've chosen different paths, Shu completely rejecting people, while Yuka interacts at arm's length. Just then, a girl named Takahashi Hina rushes up to Yuka, practically tackling her, asking for help with her studies. She explains that her mother threatened to cut her allowance if she failed even one subject in the next midterm exam. Yuka agrees to help but wonders why she had to be tackled. Takahashi, in her own way, thought hugging Yuka would increase her favorability before asking for a favor, though it clearly just caused more damage than help. Shu observes that Takahashi comes from a regular household and is one of the few students who took the exam to enter this school. Once a top student, her grades have since plummeted, as she's been living her high school life to the fullest without regrets. Yuka, shocked by how someone could go from being a top student to failing, suggests they have a study session. Takahashi, thrilled by the idea, hugs Yuka excitedly. Shu watches this unfold, noting how Takahashi treats everyone the same, which is rare in their school, where most people are cautious because of their circumstances. Even Yuka's usual wall doesn't seem to work against Takahashi, both emotionally and physically. Takahashi notices Shu and Ida standing behind them, and immediately suggests they join the study session as well. Ida, always quick with a joke, teases Takahashi for including them so casually, while she reasons that since they're both Yuka's friends, it only makes sense. Yuka, on the other hand, isn't quite sure about including Shu, though she does acknowledge Kanakun's good grades. Shu takes a look at Yuka, wondering if she's okay with the idea. Deciding to go along with it, he agrees to join the session. Ida, never one to pass up a chance to go with the flow, also agrees to tag along. As they walk together, Takahashi brings up the fact that Shu lives alone, which catches his attention. Shu confirms it, though not with much enthusiasm, while Ida chimes in that it's a popular topic around the school. Shu reflects that his living situation became a hot topic at some point, but notes that he doesn't actually live alone anymore. Takahashi, clearly excited, suggests they have the study session at Shu's place, eager to see what it's like for someone living on their own. She mentions wanting to live alone after entering university and asks Shu about the challenges of it. Shu considers using his current living arrangement as a reason to refuse, but then decides it's not a bad idea after all. Smiling, he agrees, despite internally processing the fact that Yuka probably has her reasons for pushing this, and he has his own as well. He recalls Yuka once saying it's good to have friends like that, hoping that Takahashi might be that kind of friend for Yuka. Takahashi, clearly thrilled, announces the plan and excitedly suggests meeting at Kano's place. Shu, a little thrown off, points out that he's moved, wondering how she even knows his old address. Ida laughs, reminding him that it's a well-known fact around the school. Shu and Yuka are cleaning the room and preparing for tomorrow's study meeting. They've tidied up a lot, trying to make the place look like Shu is living alone. Shu can't help but wonder why Yuka wanted this setup in the first place. She had mentioned wanting to see him surprised, but he sensed there might be more to it. Deciding not to overthink it, he focuses on cleaning and tells her to put her personal stuff away, noting that her usual cleaning style is fine, but they need to remove every trace of her presence, like strands of her hair. Yuka, amused by Shu's meticulousness, teases him, asking if he's really that worried about the small details. They joke about how cleaning like this feels a bit boring, though it reminds them of the times they used to do weeding together as kids, singing songs to distract themselves. Suddenly Yuka spots something odd, a hair that doesn't belong to either of them. She jokingly accuses Shu, which freaks him out, but then she laughs, revealing it's probably Takahashi's hair from when she hugged her the other day. Relieved but still shaken, Shu tells her that those kinds of jokes are tough on his heart. Yuka brushes it off, feeling playful, and claims she's the opposite of a high-maintenance woman. Shu reassures her, swearing he only needs her in his life. Yuka laughs at his sincerity, but inside she shares the sentiment. Shu has been all she needs for the past 10 years. The next day, after all the cleaning, Takahashi and the others arrive at Shu's place for the study session. Takahashi-san immediately begins inspecting everything from questioning what's in different rooms to commenting on household items. Shu tries to steer her away from the messier areas, while Yuka encourages her to focus on studying. They settle into the session, and Takahashi-san surprises everyone with how quickly she grasps a tricky concept, though Yuka wonders why she neglected her studies in the first place if she's this smart. After a while, they take a break, and Shu offers to get drinks. Ida, who had been napping, wakes up, agreeing it's a good idea, while Takahashi thanks him. As they relax, Takahashi remarks on how polite she always tries to be, explaining that her father warned her about being rude to important people. Yuka finds it amusing, but is impressed by Takahashi's determination to avoid causing offense, even if it sometimes comes off a bit over the top. Shu returns with the drinks and Takahashi, noticing the matching mugs, comments on it, which momentarily freaks Shu out. Thankfully, Ida jumps in with a casual explanation, saving Shu from any further questioning. Shu silently sighs in relief, realizing how on edge he feels trying to hide every trace of Yuka's presence. Just as he's thinking he can't let his guard down, Takahashi picks up a gaming console, commenting on how both controllers seem well used. Again, Ida steps in, covering for Shu, mentioning their gaming battles. Takahashi, intrigued, suggests they play, even proclaiming herself ready to win. However, it quickly becomes clear she's far from the pro she made herself out to be. After Ida and Takahashi leave, Shu finally sighs in relief, thinking to himself how much he owes Ida for his help today. Yuka watches him, smiling. She knows Aida's an idiot, but she also finds him surprisingly thoughtful, despite still being a bit of a fool. She asks Shu if he enjoys spending time with his friends at home like that. He admits he had a blast, wondering if that was Yuka's plan all along, setting up the study session so he could experience something like that. Yuka brushes off the idea, telling him he's overthinking it, then announces she's going to put everything back in her room. Shu offers to help, and Yuka can't help but think how sharp Shu is, always picking up on things. Deep down, she did want to see him surprised, and she just wanted him to have all sorts of memories with his friends. She wonders if it's arrogant to hope for that. As they enter Yuka's room, Shu realizes this is his first time in there. Yuka, on the other hand, has always kept her room clean just in case, so he could come in any time. She reassures herself that everything will be fine. He spots something familiar in the room, an old keepsake. It brings back memories of them sitting on a bench years ago. He remembers asking Yuka if she was leaving, and she had told him she was moving that day. Back then, Shu gave her his rarest, most treasured possession, something he held dear. Despite her initial hesitation, Yuka had accepted the gift, promising never to forget him. In return, she panicked, not knowing what to give him, until she pulled out a random pebble. Although embarrassed, she handed it over, and Shu, with his usual sincerity, took it and claimed it would be proof their bond wouldn't change, no matter how far apart they were. At that moment, Yuka realized her feelings for Shu weren't just about friendship, but she couldn't tell him then. He had always thought of her as one of the boys, and she had played along with that image for so long. But that day, she decided it was time to stop pretending. When Shu promised they'd be together again someday, Yuka had boldly declared they'd be together forever, sealing it with a hug. Coming back to the present, Yuka looks at Shu and wonders if he still remembers that promise. She asks him if he's thrown away the pebble by now, while internally debating whether asking would make her seem clingy. Shu surprises her by pulling out a keychain with the pebble attached. He tells her it's been with him all this time, even when he didn't have anything else. Yuka, overwhelmed with emotion, feels tears welling up. He scratches his head, admitting that he never would have imagined their promise of being together forever would actually mean marriage. Yuka laughs, but inside she thinks about how, at that time, when they made that promise, she had meant it in a different way. She wanted to be more than just friends, hoping that if they ever met again, she would become Shukuin's wife. That was always her intention, even if she hadn't said it directly back then. Shu is buried in his books, contemplating the impending exams starting tomorrow. With his usual cocky confidence, he's convinced he'll ace them. Needing a breather, he steps out of his room, only to bump into Yuka right away. She's holding chocolates and seems to have expected him to come out. One of the chocolates catches his attention, a heart-shaped one, and she casually hands it to him. He takes it and nods when she asks if he's on a break from studying. Yuka, noticing his hard work, brings up an old game between them, proposing a challenge to see who scores higher on the upcoming midterm. The stakes. The winner can make the loser do whatever they want. Shu smirks, recognizing the familiar terms. The whole do whatever you want to the loser thing has always been their playful way to spice up their contests. Neither of them asks for anything too wild, so it's just a way to add excitement. Curious, he wonders why Yuka is so confident despite not studying much, but she remains vague, teasing him about having a secret plan. She realizes letting her win could be risky this time, considering how carefree she is about these kinds of challenges. As he leaves the room, he tells her to give it their best, while Yuka internally gears up, knowing she doesn't care too much about winning. She's sure she'll lose because Shukuin studied hard, but she still wants to give him a reward. Either way, however, she's not planning on going easy on him. The day arrives when their scores are announced, and Yuka is congratulated by Takahashi, who hugs her in relief after barely passing. The group, relieved to be done with exams, decides to go play somewhere, with Takahashi suggesting karaoke. Ida chimes in, laughing, eager to forget the tests and have fun. They all look to Kanon, Hyumin, and Yuka-san, wondering if they want to join. Yuka hesitates, but eventually agrees, leaving the planning to the group. Shu silently just wishes she would assert herself a bit more. They settle on karaoke, with Ida even having a coupon for the occasion. Takahashi humorously explains the concept of coupons to Shu, assuming he wouldn't know about them due to his wealth. Shu reassures her that he knows what a coupon is, and Takahashi is impressed that even rich people use them. As they all get ready to party, Takahashi congratulates Shu and Yuka for finishing in the top 2 spots, leading the group to cheer for their success. Yuka's impressed that Shu has always ranked first since first grade, while Shu reflects on how he never bragged about it. If no one asked, why would he mention it? Ida jokingly says he's jealous of Shu's intelligence, but Yuka immediately corrects him, pointing out that Shu worked hard to earn his top spot, studying late every night. Ida, realizing his mistake, apologizes while Takahashi, with a suspicious look, asks Yuka how she knows all this. Yuka quickly covers it up by saying she was just guessing, and Shu confirms her story with a casual shrug. Internally, Shu marvels at how Yuka managed to rank second without much studying. He feels like an ordinary person who has to compensate for his weaknesses through effort. Yet, having someone like Yuka recognize his efforts so closely fills him with a happiness he didn't expect. Takahashi comments that Shu will likely breeze into university, wondering why he bothers to study so much. Shu explains that his parents would scold him if his rankings slipped, a sentiment Yuka echoes. The group heads to karaoke, and Shu makes a passing remark that piques Takahashi's curiosity. Despite her questions, he brushes it off, not wanting to explain further. They finally arrive at the karaoke spot, and as they enter, Takahashi asks Ida what he plans to sing. Meanwhile, Yuka leans in and asks Shu why he studies so hard, pushing for an answer. He doesn't want to give her the real reason, feeling that it's too heavy to share. He wants to be someone who can proudly stand beside her, but he's not ready to tell her that yet. Instead, he vaguely says he'll explain someday, and Yuka playfully agrees to wait for the right time. After a fun night, they both head home with sore throats from all the singing. Yuka brings up that it was his first time at karaoke, and he admits it was more enjoyable than he expected. She smiles, saying they should experience more first together. Shu feels a little embarrassed by how it sounds, but agrees, grateful for the experience. As they wind down, Yuka congratulates him again on ranking first, jokingly scolding him for keeping it a secret. Shu laughs it off, saying she never asked, so he never mentioned it. She responds that she loves a challenge, and the stronger the opponent, the more fired up she gets. Shu then reminds her about their bet. She lost, so now she's asking what he wants her to do. Shu, after some thought, asks for karaoke for tomorrow's side dish. Yuka laughs, calling his request boring and asking for something more entertaining. As they part ways for the night, she tugs on his shirt, reminding him that he can still ask for whatever he wants. She's shy about it, but quickly changes the subject, asking if he has plans for tomorrow. When he says no, she casually suggests they go out together, just the two of them. Internally, he feels nervous as he thinks about how Yuka has been acting oddly flirtatious for a while now. He wonders if it's just a misunderstanding. He didn't really ask where they were going, but the idea of going out with Yuka alone makes him happy, and he's genuinely looking forward to it. He can't sleep peacefully at all. His nerves are even more intense than when they hung out last time. In the morning, they greet each other. Yuka looks at Shu and thinks he seems extra sparkly today. Noticing her gaze, he asks what's up. She quickly brushes it off, claiming there's nothing wrong. As he leans closer, he asks if she's feeling under the weather, but she insists she's perfectly fine. He points out that her face is a bit red, and she closes her eyes, saying it's just because he's so charming. He doesn't buy it and insists they should check her temperature. When she hands him the thermometer, she shows him the reading, trying to prove her point. Shu sees the results and realizes she has a slight fever. Yuka thinks that maybe this fever is making her view him differently. She insists she's still good to go, claiming a fever like this won't be a problem. Shu, however, doesn't agree and tells her she needs to rest today. He tells her she's just too fired up to notice how she really feels, reminding her that pushing herself will only make things worse. He adds that she should know better at her age. Yuka remembers how they used to do a lot of things together in the past. As she tries to protest, Shu brings up their bet, firmly ordering her to stay home quietly for the day. She blushes at the memory of the bet and realizes that despite her initial resistance, she's happy about it. It feels nice to know that he's genuinely worried about her, showing how much he cares through his serious demeanor. Feeling grateful, she can't help but smile at his straightforward concern. After that, he helps her lay down in bed and brings food to her room, noting how easily she eats lunch. He asks if she's feeling okay, and she responds in a shaky voice that she's up. He recalls how her fever worsened and how tired she looked. He suggests that apples are easy to swallow and offers her some. Thinking about how she tends to act a bit childish when she's sick, a part of her that hasn't changed. As he feeds her, she munches on the apple and asks for another bite. She thanks him for the apple and for noticing her fever. He reassures her that it's no trouble at all. She reflects that if they had gone out like planned, she probably wouldn't have been able to move and would have just caused him trouble. Sitting beside her on the bed, he tells her it's no problem either way. He reminds her that she used to get fevers like this sometimes when they were kids, and that overexerting herself isn't a sign of weakness. Yuka admits she might have been a little too energetic lately, but adds that she's really enjoying life right now. Shu agrees, saying that he feels the same way, and that things will likely stay this way until they graduate. He tells her to keep her liveliness in moderation, and she giggles in agreement. He gets up, saying he'll be in the living room, encouraging her to call for him if she needs anything. She feels a little sad and asks if he's leaving. She reassures her he's just stepping out for a moment, then sits back down beside her, saying he'll stay with her until she falls asleep. She hums softly and closes her eyes. After a while, he quietly waits for her to drift off. Later that night, as he studies, he glances at the clock and realizes how late it's gotten. Suddenly, he hears Yuka mumbling and wonders if she's calling for him. He makes his way to her room and checks on her, asking what she needs. She complains about feeling hot, so he searches for the air conditioning, apologizing for not noticing sooner. But she insists that's not the issue and starts unbuttoning her shirt. Shu realizes what's happening and considers leaving, but she interrupts him again, revealing more skin and asking for help taking it off. He feels anxious, questioning whether he's mishearing things or if this is some kind of illusion. He hopes it's not, as she urges him to hurry and help her remove her hoodie. He nervously hesitates, thinking how it seems too much. She mumbles again, which makes him realize he needs to steel himself. Is the fever making her so out of it that she can't even unbutton her own pajamas? He nods to himself, understanding the situation, and gets closer to her, determined to do what's necessary for her sake. Slowly he unbuttons, telling himself it's best to just look away. He decides it'll be easier if he handles it from the back. She urges him to hurry, so he grabs her shirt, focusing on the task. Once the shirt is off, he immediately notices how sweaty and uncomfortable she looks. Changing her into new pajamas like this would just get them wet again with sweat. With a sigh of realization, he thinks he has to wipe it down first. Quickly he leaves the room to grab a towel and comes back to start wiping. While he works, she thanks him for always being there for her for everything he's done, and even for marrying her. Her words struck him, and he's a little taken aback, but he knows he feels the same. It's sweet hearing what she really thinks, and it brings a small smile to his face. She admits she loves him, which makes him blush. He's embarrassed, but knows it's coming straight from her heart. Then, without warning, she makes another request. Handing her the towel doesn't work. She's not letting him off that easily. Reluctantly, he gives in, determined to do the job properly. He can't really argue, so he finishes the task by changing her into pajamas. Once she's cleaned up and in bed, he tucks her in and wishes her a good night. Just as he's about to leave, she grabs his wrist and asks him to stay with her. Startled, he nervously settles down beside her, and as she drifts off to sleep, he tries not to move, not wanting to wake her. Lying there, he repeats to himself over and over that he's just air, invisible with no real presence, almost like a quiet chant to make it through the night. The next morning, she wakes up feeling refreshed and greets him. He checks in on her, asking if she's alright. She reassures him with a bright smile, explaining that after a good night's rest, she's completely recovered, but she notices he looks tired and wonders if he might have caught her cold. He brushes it off casually, saying it's not that, though internally, he feels awkward remembering the events from the previous night. He assumes she doesn't think much of it, probably viewing it as just a friend helping her out while being sick. When she asks again if he's okay, he admits he's just a little sleep-deprived, but nothing more. He tries to bring up last night, hesitating before recalling that she had fallen asleep after he fed her apples. She looks puzzled and asks if anything else happened after that, which makes him realize that her fever must have clouded her memory. She doesn't remember the later part of the night at all. He decides to drop it, telling her not to worry about it. As she moves about, she thanks him for taking care of her until she falls asleep. He laughs it off, mentioning she had already thanked him, but her mind is focused on pretending like nothing happened. She convinces herself that she doesn't remember anything, deciding to move on. He comments that she was pretty cute last night, acting like a child, which catches her by surprise. She quickly retorts, asking if he's implying she's not usually cute. He chuckles and reassures her, calling her the cutest in the world, making her blush as she giggles to herself. She's weak to those kinds of comments, even if said in a joking manner. She teasingly wonders if maybe getting a fever from time to time would make her even cuter. Shu smiles and reminds her to take care of herself, holding her wrist gently. She blushes again, feeling his determination to prevent a repeat of last night's events. She playfully suggests they go out since she's feeling better, but he insists they take it easy at home just to be safe. She realizes her plan to rush out backfired, but accepts it, appreciating that he's thinking about her well-being. As she leaves the room, she suggests playing games or watching a movie. Before she can fully decide, Shu stops her, telling her he has something important to say. His serious tone surprises her, and she nervously wonders if he's about to lecture her. Instead, he thanks her for marrying him and for choosing to stay by his side. He reflects on how much joy she brings him and how he never imagined he'd experience such happiness in a newlywed life. She's caught off guard, embarrassed by his heartfelt words, but feels the same. She assures him she feels just as grateful and returns his thanks before heading off to get a board game, her mind wandering as she walks away. She's still worried deep down, wondering if he picked her because he had no other option despite knowing that he isn't holding back. Fast forward to the following weekend. She hands him the essentials: lunchbox, water bottle, handkerchief, and picnic blanket. She's excited about the day ahead, calling it a tour of their most memorable places. They spend the day wandering around Shu's hometown, with Yuka enthusiastically pointing things out. She excitedly recalls the time Shu got his foot stuck in a gutter and nearly cried, finding it amusing. Shu brushes it off, claiming it's just a regular gutter. As they continue their stroll, Yuka is full of energy, patting a dog and being glad it's still doing well. Meanwhile, Shu reflects on how they're walking through his hometown, reminiscing about the past, noticing how some things have changed while others remain the same. Yuka eagerly points out familiar places, the candy store that looks exactly the same, and a mansion that's now built where they used to play. She talks about how deeper parts of the mountain often get abandoned, and they both realize they're nearing Shu's family's private property as they walk along a familiar animal trail. Yuka is thrilled that the place hasn't changed much. They even spot the secret base they once built together. Shu jumps onto a fence and extends his hand to help Yuka up, commenting on how it used to be the other way around. He pulls her up, and memories of the past flood back to him, remembering how he used to look up to Yuka. As they continue, Shu is suddenly aware of the fact that they'd naturally started holding hands, but he doesn't mention it, focusing on how eager they are to see their old base. When they finally arrive, they find the small hut still there, toys scattered around, as if it's been passed down to a younger group of kids. Shu wonders when that happened, when their secret spot became someone else's, feeling a bit of shared embarrassment with Yuka, who laughs bashfully. The base they once proudly built is now exposed to others, yet it still holds their memories. They decide to go inside, though it's a bit cramped. Yuka giggles at how small it feels now while Shu tries to stay composed, even though he's feeling nervous. The close distance between them is making his heart race, and he tries to focus so Yuka doesn't notice. As they sit there, she recalls a memory, how she had once waited for him here after running away from home, feeling like the only time she could be herself was when Shu called her Yukuin. She remembers worrying that if he knew she was a girl, he might treat her differently. Shu remembers that moment too. She had once asked him what he would do if she were a girl, and back then he had casually responded that she would still be his friend, no matter what. That moment had left an impression on him, and Yuka admits that his words back then had saved her. She reflects on how Shu's acceptance made her feel like one day he'd accept her as a girl too. Shu, in his usual easygoing manner, doesn't think there was any deeper meaning to his response back then, but he's glad it helped her. They decide to climb down from the base, figuring the kids who use it now will probably come soon, and they share a quiet understanding as they head back. As Yuka walks along, she can't help but think it's still a bit cold out. After their conversation back at the base, the mood between them feels a bit off, but luckily the cool weather helps ease some of the tension. She suggests that it's probably a good time for lunch, and they settle down to eat. As she sits, she realizes she forgot to bring an extra set of chopsticks, which leads to a moment where one of them has to eat first, but Yuka has a better idea. She takes a piece of egg with her chopsticks and feeds it to him, surprising him with the gesture. He comments on the egg, but she brushes it off, saying it's sweet and efficient to share chopsticks. After all, they'd done it before, so why be shy now? Internally, he's feeling a little self-conscious, but decides to go along with it, complimenting the taste. Meanwhile, Yuka is quietly worried. She's been thinking that Shu is too gullible, and hopes he won't get deceived by anyone, though she feels hypocritical since she's the one deceiving him now. Packing only one pair of chopsticks was her plan to sneak in an indirect kiss. After he eats, She takes a bite herself, trying to focus despite her nerves. Her plan isn't over yet, though. Next, she offers him a piece of hamburger, and as he munches, she mentally celebrates getting another indirect kiss. Things seem to be going her way until he notices ketchup on her cheek and casually wipes it away, licking his finger without a second thought. Yuka is flustered considering this almost a kiss in her book, though he brushes it off as an old habit. She tries to keep her composure, offering him more food while nervously thinking that his airheadedness sometimes surpasses her own schemes. Once they finish eating, they start packing up, but rain interrupts their day, and they rush to find shelter. Shoot suggests they head to his place, and they decide to stay the night. As they arrive at his house, Yuka feels a bit awkward, not quite used to saying, "I'm home," despite visiting his place many times. Shoot reassures her that there's no need to be nervous, just as his younger sister Kazuha greets them. She's 2 years younger, and seems surprised to see them. After some brief explanations, Kazuha offers to grab towels since no one else is home. Shoot, now soaking wet, jokes about his state while Yuka silently laments about her new clothes being drenched. He turns away when he notices her clothes clinging to her, but she teasingly tells him he can look if he wants. He, in return, warns her with a whisper that he's still a man, and she nervously retorts, accusing him of being all talk. Kazuha appears with the towels at that moment, awkwardly interrupting the flirtatious moment. Shoot finds himself thinking about how Kazuha used to follow him around, calling him Nissan all the time, but ever since his marriage was decided, he hasn't been able to decipher her like he used to. Yuka, on the other hand, tries to keep cool, thinking about how Kazuha almost caught her blushing and grinning. She's still flustered from Shoot's teasing, his manly side showing unexpectedly, which has her imagining a kiss she almost anticipated. Shoot gives her a towel and suggests they head to a room he uses. Yuka wonders if Kazuha-chan disapproves of them flirting in her family's home. She's always had the feeling that Kazuha hasn't liked her since they first met, especially during the marriage meeting. As they enter the room, Shoot shows her where she can change, and she picks one of his shirts to wear, casually thanking him. When Shoot returns, he's visibly shocked to see her only wearing the shirt, and Shoot explains that his pants wouldn't fit her anyway. Just as things seem to heat up between them, Kazuha peeks in again, and Yuka feels frustrated. Shoot quickly asks his sister if she can lend something more appropriate for Yuka to wear, and Kazuha agrees. Yuka follows her, feeling a little guilty and nervous, hoping Kazuha isn't angry. She apologizes, but Kazuha brushes it off, leaving Yuka even more confused. Yuka can't help but wonder if Kazuha feels like she's taken her brother away. Meanwhile, Shoot is left hoping the two will get along. As Yuka walks with Kazuha, she's still nervous, worried about what Kazuha might think of her. But to her surprise, Kazuha seems more excited than angry about what will happen. Yuka starts to think that maybe she's just trying to keep him in check. Sitting in the living room together, Shoot brings up where their grandpa might be today. Kazuha casually mentions that he's out drinking with friends and won't be back until tomorrow around noon. Shoot jokes about how lively Grandpa still is, never coming home in the morning. Yuka then asks if the in-laws are overseas, to which Kazuha confirms they're somewhere in Europe. Yuka smiles, thinking that's a pretty vague description. He teases Shoot about the opportunity for an all-night match. Shoot responds, reminding Yuka that they're not kids anymore and they could just stay home. Kazuha, observing their conversation, thinks about how easily they pick up a topic that excludes her. She smiles but sighs internally, realizing they both didn't notice. Watching them talk, Shoot reflects on their odd relationship, childhood friends who reunited after years and decided to get married. It's not something that usually happens. She gets up and walks away, suggesting they sleep early since they woke up early to prepare lunch. The casual conversation continues as she hears them talking about settling on bedtime, with some light bickering in between. Kazuha overhears, laughing to herself at how pure their dynamic seems. As she walks away, she starts thinking about how feminine her sister-in-law has become and how it's clear there's more between them than just friendship, even though they don't fully acknowledge it. Kazuha is moved by how precious their relationship feels, though it makes her reflect on her own feelings and how she used to dislike Yuka for taking her brother away when they were younger. Now, seeing them happy together, she starts to understand the depth of their bond. Returning to sit beside them, Kazuha blushes at the thought of their relationship. Shoot notices and asks if she's feeling okay, and she brushes it off, claiming nothing feels better than this. Yuka playfully scratches her nose, and Shoot questions her actions. Kazuha laughs to herself, knowing Yuka is trying to hide her smirk from the sweet words Shu said earlier. It's almost comedic how simple things are sometimes, especially with her brother acting like a character from a story. Yuka comments on the cold and asks to take a bath. Internally, she realizes she might have gotten carried away and decides to change the setting. She asks Kazuha for one of her tops to borrow, making her think Yuka might be trying to appeal more by warming herself up. But when she sees Yuka in a thick sweatshirt, she wonders why she didn't go for something more revealing. Kazuha notes that there's no lewd atmosphere at all, and feels like they're just childhood friends again. Despite that, she's sure Yuka has already made 2 subtle moves. Kazuha considers intervening, but knows it's against her principles. She peeks from the hallway and notices Shu heading to the bathroom. She calls out to Yuka, pointing out how she thought there'd be more flirting after coming home and wearing her brother's shirt, but now things seem quiet. Yuka is left speechless, wondering if Kazuha's comment was sarcasm. Kazuha, filled with excitement, tells her not to hold back and to pretend she's not even there. She babbles on about not being tactless and how people should stay true to themselves no matter what others say, throwing in some streamy advice. Yuka points out how fast she's speaking and Kazuha apologizes, planning to move out of sight and erase her presence completely. Yuka assures her she's not in the way at all, explaining that she thought Kazuha wouldn't like seeing that kind of thing as family. Kazuha, to her surprise, admits it's actually her favorite thing to watch. This leaves Yuka shocked, as she had assumed Kazuha hated her. She's relieved to hear otherwise. Kazuha reflects on her emotions, admitting she didn't want to miss a thing because, unlike streams, real life can't be archived. Even though she usually hates when people comment carelessly, she realizes she got a bit too emotional and ended up shouting. She admits that when she was younger she resented Yuka for taking her brother away, but now she sees her as family. Holding Yuka's hands, she can't help but notice how motherly she looks, even joking to herself that she wouldn't mind being reincarnated as her baby. Trying to offer some money, she explains the concept of a super chat, but Yuka doesn't quite understand and eventually refuses the money. Meanwhile, she returns, hoping Kazuha and Yuka didn't fight. Relieved to find them at ease, he listens as they talk about memories, and Kazuha gets excited over the idea of sending a red super chat, even if she knows Yuka didn't really grasp the idea. Shu, confused by Kazuha's playful remarks, wonders what she's talking about, but lets it slide. As Yuka holds onto Shu's arm, Kazuha watches them with a bit of amusement, thinking about how dense her brother is for not noticing Yuka's feelings. She hopes he realizes it sooner rather than later, knowing Yuka hides her affections behind jokes. The scene shifts to Shu and Yuka on their nostalgia tour, visiting the park where they first met. Yuka reminisces about how the park once seemed so big, but now it feels small. They swing together, recalling childhood competitions and moments spent alone. Shu, looking back, admits he didn't have friends back then, while Yuka shares how she, too, was often seen as strange for looking like a boy. In that moment of gratitude, they thank each other for finding one another all those years ago. Yuka reflects on her feelings, realizing that Shu has always been special to her, even if his special might mean something different. She recalls a time when her father had to move overseas for work, and how Shu promised that no matter what, their bond would remain unchanged. It was during that time that she understood her feelings for him were more than just friendship, they were love. Seated on a bench, Shu fulfills his childhood promise, instantly recognizing Yuka when they reunite. Overjoyed, Yuka reminds him of another promise, asking if his feelings are still the same. Shu tries to confess, but she teases him, insisting he used the same words he did back then. Embarrassed, Shu pulls her into a hug, finally admitting that his feelings haven't changed, he still likes her. Blushing, Yuka admits her feelings are even stronger now. Catching the curious stares of people nearby, Yuka gently pulls back, laughing as she teases Shu about barely passing. Silently, she vows to win his heart fully, telling him to be ready. Meanwhile, Kazuha senses she's missed something significant and can't shake the feeling.